Good day, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for the PGPMAX Infosession. This is the very first event that we are organizing for the August 2024 intake, and thank you for joining us for the first Infosession of the season. Welcome you to this particular session. I'm Thomas, and I'll be your host today. What we'll try to do in the next 1 hour is to walk you through the details of PGPMAX as a program, to assess if the program is right for you, and to learn more about what entails the entire experience at ISB. So all through this next 40-45 minutes, I have a presentation where I'll walk you through the details of the program, assess the eligibility of the program to see if this is the right fit program for you. And most importantly, we'll look at the details of why consider PGPMAX at all, why consider this program at the point in career that you're in. And then if you're interested in the program, we'll look at how to get started with the application for the program. This whole presentation should take us a good 40 minutes, and then we'll open up for the Q&A. We had received a lot of questions from your end while you registered for this event. Most of those questions will be answered as we progress through the presentation. But if you do get any questions as we go through a particular section, feel free to type it into the Q&A box. The Q&A box is available towards the bottom of your screen. Please list your questions in there, and we'll be happy to take it real time. So let's get started with the details of the program. A very quick look at what is PGPMAX at ISB. PGPMAX is our flagship executive MBA offering, which is very specifically tailored for senior executives with 10 to 25 years of experience. Now, given the nature of the cohort that we attract for the program is designed in a modular format, such that you don't have to take the opportunity cost, you don't have to come out of your full-time work while you're pursuing the program. And the program is designed in a way that you can pursue the program while you are in full-time work. Translating the program into numbers, every year we invite a cohort of 75 students for the program. The program is structured in a modular fashion. It spans 15 months. It will start in August 2024 and will span till December 2025. And in the span of 15 months, there are 12 weeks of in-person classes where there are 24 credits worth of courses which are shared. Now, typically when there is an in-person class, you will come to one of our campuses on a Friday evening, and you're there till the next Friday evening. So it is one whole week that you spend on the campus. And you do this every 4 to 6 weeks. So every 30 to 45 days, you come for a 1-week immersion. And that is how the 12 weeks of immersions would happen for the span of 15 months. We deliver the program from 4 locations. Roughly about 8 weeks of classes happen at our ISB Hyderabad campus, 2 weeks of classes at ISB's Mohali campus, and there are 2 weeks of international immersions, one at Wharton and one at London Business School. Translating all of this is a very intensive course which has about 508 hours of contact classes, and the 12 weeks translates to 84 days minus all the Saturdays and Sundays. That is 60 days out of office which you'll have to plan for. Now, this is something that we encourage you to explore from the organizational end, because the 12 weeks that you're there on the campus is going to be quite intensive and rigorous in terms of both the academic component and also in the networking component. So typically when you're there for a weekly immersion, you check in on a Friday evening. Classes start from Saturday morning until the next Friday afternoon. Classes typically run from 8:30 in the morning till 4:30 or 5. There are 2 courses that will be running parallelly. So you will have classes from morning till evening. It is common to see a case study discussion or an assignment move a little late into the night. And along with this academic rigor, there's a lot of networking rigor as well, from a simple lunch or dinner that is organized in the campus to a more structured event. There are quite a few networking events that happen while you're there for that 1 week of immersion. So this entire 1 week when you're there on the campus is going to be quite intensive. And that is why we encourage you to look at how the 60 days out of office can be managed from the organization front as well. A quick look at the standings of the program. The program has been consistently ranked in the global top 100 for the last 4 years. And we are ranked number 1 in the country, and we're the only program from the country to be ranked in the global top 50. Both in the Financial Times EMBA rankings and the Economist EMBA rankings. We are also part of something called the MBAC. The MBAC is the Executive MBA Council. It is a council of global schools who offer executive MBA programs, who come together to ensure that the delivery of the program and the admissions criteria of the programs are maintained at a global standard. And we are the only school from the country to be a representative in the Impact Council. A quick look at the eligibility for the program. The eligibility criteria for the program is that you should have an undergrad degree and 10 plus years of work experience for by the year that you're applying for. So for the August 2024 intake, it is that you should have 10 plus years of full-time work experience as of July 2024. Now, the eligibility criteria apart, the program doesn't ask for a score. So we don't ask for a GMAT or executive assessment score. Therefore, the focus is more on your profile. So a lot of emphasis is there on the work experience that you've had and the scope and impact of the experience that you've had. And this is what you would be largely communicating through the entire application process to the admission panel as well. A quick look at the stats from the current cohort. We have 19 plus industries represented. The average age is 40. The average work experience is 17. This is for the current cohort that we have right now. So you can see that it's a very senior cohort that is put together. When we say that the range of experience that we attract is 10 to 25 years of experience, the youngest member in the current cohort is a manager in the Big Four with about 11 years of experience, all the way up to the senior most member in the cohort is somebody with 35, 34 years of experience in the industry. So that is the range of experience that you would see in PGPMAX as a program. We do get a lot of diversity into the program from an industry or functional perspective. A lot of industries are represented. You can see that from the current cohort stat, one of the largest represented industry is the IT products and services industry, accounting to about 28% of the cohort. But even within that industry, you would see a lot of functional diversity as well. So from a true technologist to somebody who is handling business, there is diversity in terms of industry and function represented. And the diversity is not limited to industry and function alone. The diversity is also in terms of the number of years of work experience that is brought to the cohort. Therefore, the scope and impact of the work experience varies largely. You can see that almost as much as possible, there is an equal split that is brought together. 10 to 12 years accounts to about 13% of the cohort, and you can see the split thereon. So it is anywhere from a manager, senior manager, or a project leader to director, VP, or CXO as part of the cohort. And that adds a lot of diversity into the experience mix that is brought into the cohort. And this is an important mix that the admission committee also looks at, because it goes a long way in defining your in-class experience. So this is what you need to, what you should expect from PGPMAX cohort. It's a very diverse community of senior executive leaders who come together in their pursuit to becoming organization leaders. The program is designed as a general management program, so there are no specializations in the program, but there are 24 credits worth of general management courses that you would do. Here is a split of the curriculum that is shown on the screen. So we've divided the curriculum in the program into 8 themes. On screen, you can see the first 4 themes that are part of the program. Some of the courses which are currently taken are listed under that. Now, the specifics of this are available in the PGPMAX webpage. So if you go to the webpage, the details of each of these components, what is taught under each of these components are also listed. Please do bear in mind that this is something that the admission committee reviews on a yearly basis. So the courses would change from time to time. There is timely upgradation that is done for the courses as well. So on screen, you can see the first 4 themes which are there, listing the other 4 themes on the screen right now. So a look at that, you can get a sense of how diverse the curriculum is for the program. It is a general management program. It covers the length and breadth of general management knowledge requirement. So it is structured in a way that you get the entire breadth of general management knowledge, and it is also designed in a way that you are able to amass this knowledge in your pursuit for becoming an organization leader. The courses which are highlighted in gray on the screen are the courses which are delivered as part of the international immersion. So at London Business School and Wharton, these are some of the courses that you would be taking as well. Now, a lot of time we do get questions about what is the difference between an MBA or an executive MBA. Should I do an MBA as against an executive MBA? A lot of the times the difference comes down to the way these programs are delivered. Generally, an MBA is a bottom-up approach. whereas an executive MBA is a top-down approach. So the focus in an executive MBA is to give you the decision maker's point of view. And that major difference categorizes executive MBA from an MBA program. So if you're looking at, if you are a functional leader, if you have had a successful track record as a vertical leader, and if you're now looking at an organizational leadership role, then an executive MBA is an ideal fit for you because it gives you the breadth of knowledge without going too much into the depth, but still getting the essential knowledge to take the decision maker's point of view. And that is how executive MBA curriculums are put together. And this is something that you would see as you explore more of the PGPMAX curriculum. Now, given the nature of the program, given the way the program is delivered, the way the structure of the program delivery is also quite different. So you would have a lot of pre-course reading, which are part of the program. So in the 4 to 6 weeks that leads to your 1 week of immersion, there is a certain amount of pre-reading materials that is shared by the faculty. A pre-reading material is a case study or program related material that is shared by the faculty. You're expected to read it and come prepared for the 1 week of immersion that you would have. And then while you are there for the 1 week of immersion, your learning there is seconded with a lot of industry speaker series, simulation exercise, and a lot of case studies. In fact, literally more than 100 case studies that you would go through as you go through the span of the program. So this is also the time commitment that you'll have to take into account. So the pre-reading time commitment that is recommended is that you should budget about 3 to 4 hours on a weekly basis to allocate some time to read through the materials that the faculty shares before you come for the weekly immersion. So moving about 3 to 4 hours on a weekly basis for the 4 to 6 weeks of immersion, and then coming for that 1 week of complete immersion on campus. This is the time commitment that you'll have to plan for from your end. Now, the program does not have placements, but given the nature of the cohort that we attract, there is a very specific career services team that the cohort has. So there are 3 levels of career services support that is delivered through the program. At a very basic level, the learning and development team at ISB helps you with the sheer basics, from prepping your CV or cover letter to enabling one-to-one session with headhunters is something that the learning and development team does through the entire 15-month journey that you would have. Midway through the program, we have something called the executive coaching. The executive coaching is a flagship offering in PGPMAX. We'll talk a little about that in the next slide. We call it the LEAD program. And once you graduate from the program, you have access to the alumni job portal, which is a strong facilitator for the career moves that we have seen. Because a lot of times we have heard that in the senior executive space, if there are 10 jobs available in the market, only about 3 come to the open market. The remaining 7 are usually sourced by the executive search firms or by the organizations internally. And this is where the job portal comes quite handy. It is your input for the insider intel of what is happening in the industry. And it also works through the referral system within ISB. And it's a larger ISB community that you have access to through this portal as well. Now, a quick look at the lead engagement. So the lead engagement is, as I mentioned, a flagship offering as part of PGPMAX. So it's a very unique experience that you would have while doing PGPMAX at ISB. It starts with a classroom intervention. One of the first courses that you would do when you start the program is leading people and organization. And executive coaching is an extension of that. So midway through the program, at about 6 weeks, 7 weeks into the program, you would do a 360-degree assessment of yourself. It's a peer assessment. You would identify areas of strengths and improvement. And then you have access to an online platform for about 60 days, where there are 300 plus coaching modules available on diverse areas. So from simple soft skill areas such as communication or voice coaching or sleep coaching or even diet coaching, all the way up to business specific, function specific coaching such as negotiation skills or any specific business requirements or areas of improvement that you want to do. And there's a panel of global experts and leaders who are empaneled in the platform, who will enable this training with you, this coaching with you. And it is a one-to-one coaching that you get. So it's a very specific journey that you tailor for yourself. Typically, we see that a participant would identify 4 or 5 or even 7 areas where they would want this specific coaching. They would work with their executive coach on a one-to-one basis to improve on those areas. In fact, there is somebody I know in the current in the previous cohort who nearly did 200 of these coaching modules as well. So it's a very diverse experience that you can tailor for your needs, and it is a tailored leadership journey transformation experience that you get as part of the program. And this is a very strong enabler for the career needs or career development areas of our participants that we've seen all through these years as well. A quick look at the program. The program fees is 41 lakh 63 plus GST. So including the GST component, it is 49 lakh 50. The program fees includes your entire program related experience expenses. So it is the tuition and the case study expenses plus the residential expenses that you would have while you're there on the campus. So the boarding and lodging for the entire 12 weeks is part of this fees as well. So while you're there in the ISB campuses in India, or when you go for the international immersion, your entire boarding and lodging is part of the fees as well. And what is not included in the fees is the travel and visa expenses. So the travel within India, the international travel, and the related visa charges is something that you'll have to separately budget for. Now we do have a flexible payment option. So the fees that you'll have to first pay is the admission fee. Once you get an offer from us within a span of about 15 to 20 days, you pay an admission fee of 3 lakh plus GST to confirm your admission. The remaining fees is divided into 4 equal installments, and you pay it in intervals of 3 months each. The details of the fee structure is also listed in the PGPMAX webpage. I would encourage you to look at these details to get more specific details of the fee structure of the program. Now, we do have financial aid options put for the program as well. We have 10 banking partners who have very specific arrangements for taking loans for this particular program. The details of these partners, including what is the maximum loan amount that you can take, the moratorium period, the rate of interest, including the point of contact, everything is listed in the website. I would encourage you to look at these details to know more about the bank loan engagements that are put in place. I'm sharing a link in the chat box right now that will lead to this specific page so that you can learn more and read more about the banking partners that we have. So the link that I've just shared in the chat box, that goes to the financial aid page to get more details about the banking partners. That said, we've got a question in the Q&A box. What are the entry requirements? Is GMAT required is the question? No, the entry requirement is that you should have an undergrad degree and have full-time experience of 10 plus years when you apply for the program. We don't ask for a score, so a GMAT or executive assessment is not required to apply for the program, but therefore the emphasis is more on the profile itself. So you'll see that we'll discuss about this in a while. You'll see that the application is going to be a comprehensive application which looks a lot into your profile, and that goes a long way in communicating your profile to the admission team. Now, the program these are stats from the current cohort. We have about 79% of our participants are self-funded, but a portion of our participants also get some funding from the organization. So this is something that you would want to explore from your side. There are organizations which are open for part funding and full funding. So do check from your end on if this is a possibility for you. From ISB's side, ISB also understands that the program is a significant investment, and therefore a limited amount of merit scholarships are available from ISB side. Typically, about 20% of the cohort gets the scholarship, and the scholarships when offered are in the tune of 20 to 25% of the tuition fee. So the scholarships are based on merit. There are some criteria which are considered, but in general, what your profile brings to the table and the value it adds to the cohort is something that is crucial for the scholarship consideration as well. There is no separate application for the scholarship. Your application itself is the premise for the scholarship consideration as well. Therefore, building a very strong application as part of the program, as when you apply for the program, is quite important for both the selection process and also for the scholarship consideration. There's another question which has come into the Q&A box. What is the acceptance percentage for the course is the question. These are confidential numbers, but in general, 1 in 3 or 4 applicants make it to the class. That is a good figure to keep in mind. Yeah, there's another question on class timings and dedicated hours that is required. Yeah, so on the class timings, you do 1 week of immersion in the campus. So you come in on a Friday, you will check in on a Friday afternoon, and the classes will run from Saturday morning till the next Friday afternoon, and you check out that particular Friday. So it is a Friday to Friday immersion that happens when you're there on the campus. Typically, classes would run from morning 8:30 to 4:30 or 5 in the evening. There are two courses that would be running parallelly. And then you would also have assignments or case studies and other group activities which would happen post the class hours. And a lot of these networking events which are part of the week's immersion as well. So what you'll have to budget for when you're there for the week is to take that entire week off so that you allocate time for that weekly immersion. While you're not there on the campus, in the 4 to 6 weeks that leads to the immersion, there is a certain amount of pre-reading that you'll have to do. So the pre-reading time commitment is about 3 to 4 hours on a weekly basis for the 4 weeks that builds onto this 1 week of immersion. Hope that clarifies that. Now let's look at another important question. Why consider PGPMAX at all? Why look at a program like this at the point in career that you're in? Now, let me take a pause here and play this video. This is Professor Bhagwan Chaudhary, one of our most sought after professors at ISB, talking about the ISB PGPMAX program. Let me play this video and we'll come back to the slide. So that's Professor Bhagwan Chaudhary iterating what is the PGPMAX experience like and reiterating his words. This is what the program enables you to do. It enables you to rethink, reimagine, and reinvent yourself at the point in career that you are in. And how do we get to do this? We get to do it with an amazing set of faculties who deliver the program. It is one of the most competitive global MBA programs that is structured. And therefore, we have an amazing panel of faculties from the ISB ecosystem and from our international school partners who come and deliver uh, lectures in the program. Now, our faculties come from two different tracks. You will find that there are academicians, there are research track faculties, and there are also industry track faculties. So it's a mix of the faculty panel that you get for PGPMAX. And given the nature of the cohort, the faculties also have substantial years of experience of coming and teaching in this program. On an average, faculties have more than 20 years of experience, either from the industry or from academia, when they choose to come and teach in the program. Let me show some examples of our faculty profiles. This is Professor Prashant Kale, one of our most sought after professors at ISB. Prashant Kale has been teaching uh, strategic engagements and strategy as a course for PGPMAX. He is a professor at Rice University, a PhD from Boston. And he has been teaching in the course from inception. So a research-based faculty, a true academician, who teaches in the program. Another faculty profile is somebody from the industry, Professor Nandu Nandakishore. Professor Nandu Nandakishore has had a career of about 35, 36 years with Nestle. He was the CEO for Nestle in the LATAM, Europe, and APAC markets. And he is somebody who is an industry track professor, practice track faculty who teaches in the program. So he teaches at ISB and at London Business School, and a very sort of a professor again, who comes with credible years of experience from the industry. So these are the two sets of faculties you would see all through the program. A detailed listing of the faculties who teach in the program, who have taught in the program in the past, is listed again in the PGPMAX webpage. That is another good resource to look for to know more about the experience in the program. Now, on screen are some of the career journeys of some of our alums that I've listed on the screen. Irrespective of the industries that they are from, irrespective of the function that they represent, one common theme is prevalent. They were all functional leaders who came into the program, who then progressed into an organizational leadership role. And this is the core objective of PGPMAX as a program. From an institutional point of view, PGPMAX is designed as a program that enables functional leaders, people who have had a vertical trajectory in their career, to take the leap into an organizational leadership role, to get a holistic view of the organization and now move into a more wider role, a broader role, or even a global role as you consider. So this is the core objective of the program, and all the learning components or all the learning interventions in the program are designed around this as the core theme to it. I've got a lot of questions in the Q&A box. I'll save these questions towards the end. We have a couple of few more slides to go through. So we'll go through these slides, finish these slides, and come back to the questions. A quick look at the entrepreneurial ecosystem at ISB as well. Now, we do get a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs who come into the program. That is why this slide is very important. In fact, we also see that a lot of our participants who are senior executives somewhere down the line also consider an entrepreneurial journey. And that is where this larger ecosystem is very prevalent. At ISB, we had two incubators for a very long time, for more than a decade. We had the D Labs at ISB Hyderabad and the Atal Innovation Center at ISB Mohali. Around 2022 December is when we brought all of the larger ISB ecosystem under one umbrella brand called the iVentures. So today the iVentures has all the incubators and the larger ecosystem that ISB's entrepreneurial space has. Now, over the past decade or so, the success of iVentures has been so, where there are 300 plus startups nurtured, of which 75 plus startups have gone on to raise fundings of 2,200 crore plus. And today it is a very successful initiative from ISB, a very active initiative such that every stage of your entrepreneurial journey is supported by iVentures. So if you only have an idea, there is something called a pre-incubation program. So from a pre-incubation program to incubation, acceleration, and funding are all part of the ISB iVentures ecosystem. Starting from this year, the iVentures is also launching an in-house Shark Tank model. So there's a funding opportunity that is extended to all our alumni. The program is starting this July. So from a pre-incubation idea stage all the way up to a mature startup coming and seeking funding, that is a larger ecosystem that is supported and enabled through the iVentures at ISB. To know more about iVentures, there is a separate website for iVentures. Do check in with them. And you will get a lot of details and listings about some of the alumni journeys and what our alumni do in the startup space as well. Another big advantage that you get out of the program is the access to the larger alumni community at ISB itself. It is 17,000 plus members strong today. We're spread across 400 cities in 60 countries. And there are 700 plus of our alums who are in senior executive roles, very senior leadership roles, CXO roles, and top leadership roles. A lot of them come from the PGPMAX community, given the nature of the cohort that we attract for the program as well. So this wider community is something that you get access to when you consider the PGPMAX program as well. Very sorry, I'll have to go back to these slides. Just bear with me. Right. So this also, I hope this will also address some of the questions of at what stage in career do people consider PGPMAX. Let's look at some of these, some of our alumni journey to get a sense of where in their career they started PGPMAX and where it has enabled them to reach today. A quick look at our alumni journey. This is one profile on the screen that of Gaurav Mahendra. Gaurav joined us while he was a vice president at JP Morgan. And being a vice president in JP Morgan, becoming the MD of a function in JP Morgan was something that was there in his visibility. And he needed something to accelerate that journey. And that is why he chose to do PGPMAX. And we have a detailed interview with him where we asked about his journey and about the post-program impact. And he went on to iterate that what PGPMAX enabled him to do is to accelerate the journey and cut short about 4 or 5 years of his journey of being a managing director in JP Morgan from being a VP. So that acceleration is what the PGPMAX program helped him fuel in his career journey. He's currently the executive VP for Wells Fargo. Uh, we also, on the screen is the profile of Dilip Kumar Khandelwal. Dilip was already a very senior leader. He was the MD of SAP Labs when he joined the program. So he was already on the top of the ladder, already on the top of the leadership progression stage. But his reason to do PGPMAX was to get a global perspective and to look for a more global role. He is today the MD and CEO for Deutsche Bank India and the global CIO for Deutsche Bank, the group as well. And that is a career progression where he took his journey from being a leader at a global stage. This is Shikha Bagai. Shikha Bagai is part of our founding cohort. She was already a CFO of a large company when she joined us. She had visibility of becoming a CFO of larger companies as well. And that is where she took this journey to help her enable that journey of becoming a very senior leader within large organizations at a global stage. She's today the MD for India and Mauritius at Vistra Group. It's also an interesting journey that Shikha has had. Shikha was part of our founding batch in the class of 2011. She currently did her EFPM as well from ISB. So she is somebody who did the PGPMAX, came back to ISB, did a program called EFPM. EFPM is more like an executive PhD where you deep dive into one of those areas. So a champion of continuous learning who has had a tremendous journey within the leadership track as well. So you might be wondering if is the program only structured for senior leaders at a very senior level? Not so. The program also, as I mentioned, attracts functional leaders. So if you're a functional leader handling a particular function, and if you're looking at progression into an organization leadership role, that is the right point to consider PGPMAX. So Charita Singh's career is an example for that. She is the Director for People Practices India, Australia for EA. As a Director for People Practices, handling this larger global region, she wanted a program to enable her in her journey into that organization leadership role. And that is why she pursued the program. She was part of our class of 2019. Another example is that of Vidyut. Vidyut is one of our youngest members while he did the program back in 2020. He was one of the youngest members of the cohort. He was an entrepreneur and he was part of Celebrity Fashion Group. India Terrain is now a part of Celebrity Fashion Group and he's a joint MD for India Terrain. His reason for doing PGPMAX was to enable him to scale up his journey as an entrepreneur and to take India Terrain into a larger into a larger presence and into a larger role within the country itself. And that is what the entire program experience has helped him do. This is Sharad Agarwal. Sharad Agarwal had credible years of experience before he considered the program. In fact, he had more than 25 years of experience when he joined the program back in 2015. He was a technology leader and had a tremendous journey within the technology practice at Air India. And today he has progressed into becoming the CEO of Air India Engineering Services. So his reason for doing PGPMAX was to add a business layer of knowledge to his technology area. And that is something that enabled him to take up that business role later in his career. And that is also a point for a lot of leaders to consider PGPMAX as well. Sunanda's story is quite important and quite close to our heart because Sunanda did the program with a lot of personal challenges as well. She was a mother of two. She had a toddler and a 3-year-old baby to take care of while she was pursuing the program. She is a group finance controller at Microsoft. She was part of a class of 2020. She had this amazing ecosystem that was put together at ISB to help her pursue through the program. And she was a gold medalist from the class of 2020 as well. So there is a brilliant support ecosystem, be it from an operational point of view, also from a people point of view that is put together at ISB that would enable you to pursue the program irrespective of the personal challenges that you might have. Preetham's is a very different story. Preetham is a doctor, a neonatologist with the Rainbow Group. He again was a functional leader from a very different sector altogether, and he wanted to add a business layer of knowledge to his functional expertise, and that is why he wanted to choose PGPMAX. And he's part of Rainbow Group now. Rainbow Group has ambitious plans for expansion, and Preetham is part of that decision and discussion. Raghuram again Raghuram is a veteran who moved from the Indian Army to the side. So he was a lieutenant colonel with the Indian Army, had a good 16, 18 years of experience in the Indian Army, and then moved to the corporate side. Raghuram is somebody who knew that he wanted to be an entrepreneur, but did not know where to start, and incidentally started a company with his cohort mate. And Raghuram co-founded the company called Aspective Technologies. It is today incubated with T-Hub here in Hyderabad. So a story of how somebody moved from a functional area, started something within the ISP ecosystem, and is now scaling it up. Amit Raj is another person from the forces. He's a veteran. He was with the Indian Navy for a good 20 plus years, then moved to the industry, was with Sigashi, and wanted to pursue PGPMAX to help him in his leadership journey. He's today the MD and CEO of Sigashi Enterprises. A lot of times we see that senior executives who come to the program with credible years of experience at some point want to take the entrepreneurial journey. Naveen's is a classical case of that. Naveen was in the US for a good 15, 16 years as part of as a technology leader, moved back to India and started a UI UX company way back then, Devami Enterprises, and wanted to do the PGPMAX to help him scale up as an entrepreneur, as a business leader. And today is a very successful business leader running Devami Enterprises. The other side is also true. Ritu's is an example of how an entrepreneur used the program to move back to the corporate. So Ritu was an entrepreneur when she joined us. She was running a company successfully for a good 10, 12 years. And post completion of the program has now joined a group in the US as the CMO. So a very different story of how an entrepreneur will use the program to go back to the corporate at a global level. So these are some of the stories that I wanted to put in front of you. Hope some of you could relate to some of these journeys that are discussed right now. A lot more of these journeys are listed as part of our alumni blogs. In fact, we are also going to start a student series also, where we would be asking our students, we'll be interviewing our students, and would be translating that into an article of why they chose to do PGPMAX and how it is helping them today as they do the program. All of this would be listed in our PGPMAX blogs. So I'm sharing the link to those blogs right now in the chat box. Please refer to this link to read more about our alum stories, and please do refer back to these pages to read about our student stories as well. Hope these stories will help you relate to some of the experiences and will help you in the assessment process of considering whether PGPMAX is right for you or not. Now, all this said, if you feel that PGPMAX is the right program for you from a professional standpoint, how do you get started with the application for the program? The first deadline for the upcoming season for the August 2024 intake is a round one deadline on September 10th, 2023. The application portal is now open, so you can start building your application right away. And the first deadline to keep in mind is September 10th. So we go by each deadline. For this season, we will be having a couple of deadlines, and we typically take about 30 to 45 days to process an application once a deadline is over. So September 10th as a date, if you are able to put in the application by round one deadline, the entire process would happen through September, October. So the assessment of your applications, the interviews, the admission interviews, all of this would happen within the next 30 to 45 days. And we expect to get the results of this particular deadline by October end. So this is a good deadline to start the process early. Applying for the program early is something that we would encourage. Last year's cycle was an amazing cycle for us. It was also one of the most competitive cycles that we saw. So people who applied towards the final round had very challenging application pool to compete with. So to avoid that, if you are able to apply for the program well in advance, that increases your chances for being considered into the program as well. So this is a key date to keep in mind. This is the link to start the application. I'm sharing this in the chat box as well. It is pgpmax.isb.edu. This particular link will take you to the application portal. And when you log into the application portal, you'll see that it's a comprehensive application. It'll ask for, so the eligibility criteria is that you have an undergrad degree and you have 10 plus years of experience. So the online application portal is going to ask you to fill in details of all of this. A large portion of the application is going to be these details populated. Most importantly, your work experience is going to communicate the scope and impact of the experience that you've had. And this is an important consideration for the entire application process as well. So this is something that you'll have to spend, you have to invest some time in. You'll have to add in a lot of details, and especially for the last 5 to 6 years of experience, if you're able to bring in examples of the initiatives that you have taken, impact that it has had in the organization, all of that is going to build in your larger narrative for the program. There are also 2 essays which communicate your motivation for the program, and we also seek 2 professional recommendations. Now, the professional recommendation can come in from anybody who has known you in a professional capacity. So it need not be from your current organization alone. It can be from your previous organization. It could be from a vendor or client that you've worked with, or even from a mentor that you might have in the industry. But identifying these recommenders, communicating to them, getting the recommendations in on time, all of this would take some time. So we would recommend that you invest that time to go through these details and keep populating the application over a period of time so that you have ample time to put in the right narrative. Even for the essays, the 2 essays which we ask for as part of the application are very short essays. These are 300-word essays which communicate your motivation for the program. But it is also going to be a little challenging because you'll have to summarize your entire experience and your motivation into 300-word space. And that is something that might take 3 or 4 iterations. So investing your time there is also something that we would highly recommend. Now, in terms of what does the panel look for, this is the selection criteria for PGPMAX. So the first level of shortlisting is based on the application itself. So the entire application that you submit goes for independent reviews with 2 sets of evaluators. And they review your application for all these pointers listed, for your personal attributes, for the scope and impact of the work experience that you have, and so on. There are critically 4 important points to keep in mind, 4 key areas that are assessed largely. Your leadership potential, showcased by the work experience that you've had, and the value that you bring to the table with the scope and experience, the scope and impact of the experience that you've had, makes a large portion of your application. So this is something that you'll have to have some invest some time on and take some time to build on. So your leadership potential, your scope and impact of the work experience that you've had, and therefore the value that you bring to the table, your future outlook, your global outlook, and your future prospects from the program. Why do you consider the program, and how will the program help you in your future prospects, is something that is very key, very important for the assessment process. And as you build in the application, you'll see that the essays or any of the descriptive sections in the application are going to narrate all of these elements as well. So please do keep these 4 pointers in your mind. Your motivation, the reason for why you want to do PGPMAX, the value that you would bring to the table, your leadership potential and global outlook, and your future aspirations, and how well the program aligns with your future aspirations. These are 4 important areas to keep in mind, and do build in the larger narrative around these 4 areas. Once the application shortlisting is done, you will then have an admission interview. So as I mentioned, we go by the 30 to 45-day interval after a deadline. So if you apply by the September 10th date, you will have your interview somewhere around end of September or earlier, by early October. The admission interview is with a panel of PGPMAX alums. We typically have 2 or 3 of our alums deep diving into your application itself. The interview is more around your profile itself. So it is your profile and application based interview. They would want to deep dive more into your motivation of why you want to consider PGPMAX and whether the program is right for you, given the stage and career that you're in. So that is what is going to be assessed. So these 4 pointers that we just discussed are going to be uh, looked into with more details, and they're going to probably go into the specifics of these 4 points all through the interview. So that is why focusing on these 4 points is important. Reiterating those again: your motivation to pursue the program, the value that you bring to the table, your leadership potential and global outlook, and your future aspirations and how well the program aligns with it. These are the 4 key areas to look at as you build the application. That covers the PGPMAX program and its application process. Now we'll open up for the questions. I've got quite a lot of questions in the Q&A box. I'll be taking it up now. But if you do have questions, any further questions, feel free to type it into the Q&A box and I'll take it one by one. This is how you can reach out to us. Our email ID is pgpmax@isb.edu. Once you register, please do mark this email ID as a safe email ID, because all the communications from our end will be coming from this particular email ID. And these are our contact numbers listed on the screen. I'm Thomas, and Smithy is also a program manager who handles the admissions for the program. These are our direct lines. Please do take a note of these numbers and feel free to reach out to us whenever you need help with the program or with the application process. If you're in an assessment phase, if you're considering the program, and if you would want to look more into your profile and understand if this is the right program for you, this is how you can book a one-to-one conversation with us. We'll be happy to look at your profile, look at your reasons for why you would want to do PGPMAX, and we'll be able to guide you on whether this is the right program for you or not. So this is how you can start booking a one-to-one conversation with us. I'm sharing this in the chat box as well, the link for booking a one-to-one conversation. Please feel free to book a one-to-one conversation at your convenience, and we'll be happy to help you and guide you with understanding whether this is the right program for you. So in the chat box are 3 links already shared, one around financial aid, one for the alum blocks that we discussed, and one for the one-to-one conversation. Feel free to book a one-to-one conversation with us, and we'll be happy to support you. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to us at these direct lines, and be it with the application or with the program assessment itself, we'll be happy to support you. Let me take up the questions one by one now. So there's a question on what is the process for reapplication, specifically when the reason for prior application is unknown. So in the case of, if you're already applied and if there was a rejection last year, please allow it another 1 or 2 weeks time, because we are in the process of sourcing the feedback. We have a structured process where we'll be sharing the feedback with you. So we will be sharing this feedback in the next coming 1 or 2 weeks. Just like how we plan to do a one-to-one conversation, there'll be a one-to-one calendar booking link that will come through the mail. You'll have the opportunity to book a conversation with us. We will share these feedbacks directly with you, and based on the feedback, we'll support you to restructure your application and come back with a stronger narrative. So we'll guide you on a case-to-case basis of what to do then. So if you're a reapplicant, the process is the same. You will have to go in and fill in the application for this year. Only difference is that as a reapplicant, when you log in, most of your details are going to be there. So you'll have an option to import your existing details or rework on it. So that option would be there. And there is also an option to take your previous year's recommendation forward. So if it's the last year that you applied for, you'll be able to take the recommendation forward to this year as well. And the reapplication fees is 1,000 rupees. So this is what you'll have to keep in mind. The process remains the same. You'll have to still redo the application, and there is an interview process that you'll have to go through. One additional essay that the reapplicants would have to now do is a reapplicant essay, which essentially asks for why are you reapplying and what has changed from the last time that you applied. And that is an important essay that you can use to strengthen your application, to strengthen, to address some of those feedback areas that came through, and put in a very strong application as well. So please allow it another 1 2 weeks time. We'll be sharing the feedback with you on You will get the notification for this through email. Once that is there, please start working on this feedback and put in your application. There's a question on the program fee. So the statement is that program fee is quite steep. So yes, so in isolation, if you look at it, the program fee is quite on a premium side for the country. But if you look at the global top 100 EMBAs, I personally feel that PGPMAX is one of the most competitively priced programs. But what is the USP is a larger question. What is the ROI is a question that we often get. It's a larger question that needs to be answered from multiple angles. So the best way to assess the program, to vet the program, is to go through the experiences of current students and of our alumni. And one way to start that, one area to start that is with the alumni blogs itself. So in the chat box, I have shared the link for the alumni blogs. That'll give you some insight into the journeys that our alums have had. In the coming weeks, we'll also be hosting some of these events called CEO Stories and Student Diaries. So the CEO Story is event where we bring our alums together. So we'll typically have 3 alums brought together, and we ask these same questions of why you did PGPMAX, how has the program helped you, and what was the ROI, and so on and so forth. We also bring students together in a program called Student Diaries, and we ask them, why did you take this leap? Why are you doing PGPMAX, and how is it helping you today in your career? So a lot of these experiences will help narrate the larger answer for what is the ROI from the program. And that's the best way to go around understanding more about the program as well. And one of the best things about PGPMAX is if you talk to 10 different alums, you'll get 10 different perspectives. And that's the best takeaway from PGPMAX as well. So do join us for these events. Do have a lookout for our event page. A lot of these events get listed. In fact, this month itself, we'll be having 1 CEO story and 1 student diary. So do join us for those events, and you will get a lot more perspectives from these events. So I just saw that there's a, you were not able to hear the video is what I can see right now. Just a second. Very sorry about this. So if that was the case, let me just share the screen and put the video again. Very sorry that I did not see this on time, but let me. So on screen is the video. Let me play this again for people who could not hear the video.
You might be wondering, why at this stage in my life do I need to go back to school? Why MBA now? And what is it that PGPMAX is going to offer me? You see, you are at that stage in life where you have the maturity, but now you want to rethink. You want to think about things fundamentally. You want to rethink from the basics so that you can reinvent your business, you can reinvent the world around you to see if things can be done differently. Because the world is changing. The world is not the same that it was 10 or 15 years ago, and it's changing rapidly. PGPMAX will give you that opportunity to explore this with alumni who are trying to do the same thing.
Hope it was audible this time, and very sorry about that. Do let me know if it was audible this time in the chat box, please. Excellent. Thank you so much. So another question that I have is around how does ISB help somebody to pivot in their career? Again, the same answer. You'll actually, when you go through the alumni stories, when you go through some of these CEO story discussions, in fact, the previous year's CEO story or student diaries is something that you can go back and refer in our YouTube channel. So if you search for PGPMAX CEO story or PGPMAX student diaries, you'll get to see a lot of these video recordings in YouTube. And time and again, you will see stories of how people have pivoted in their careers. There are senior executives who have become entrepreneurs who have gone back to the corporate side as well. There are quite a lot of people from the forces from defense who have moved into the corporate side. And you'll also see a lot of functional experts, like a doctor or a lawyer or a fashion designer doing the program and then moving into a larger business role. These are all examples of how people have pivoted their careers, and probably going through all these stories will give you a larger understanding and perspective of how the program enables that. So it's not a one liner answer, but it's going to be more of a lot of elements that are part of the program that is going to enable that journey. But that journey is going to be that is something that you can shape together, going through these experiences, reading through these experiences. In fact, stay tuned. In the coming weeks, we'll be doing some of those stories from our student side, from the current cohort who are there. We have already done a lot of interviews with them, and we'll be sharing some of these stories through our social channels as well. So refer back to the blogs page or follow us in the social channels, and you'll get to see some of these stories. One of those stories is of a lawyer who did the program. Another is that of a sailor turned investor who did the program. Another is somebody from a decarbonization side who is now taking up a global role. So all of these are examples of how people pivot in their careers or take their career to the next level through with the program. So do refer back to these resources. I really hope this will help. So what are the dates for applying for the next intake is the question. So in the question, it's mentioned April 24. The intake is not for April, it is for August. We only have one batch starting every year. So the next intake is for the August 24 intake. And the first date to keep in mind is the round one deadline, which is September 10th. Yeah, so there's a comment that so the profiles that I already showed were leaders who are already established as a comment which has come in. That is why we are doing the student stories as well, starting this year. So we understand that when we do an alum story, alums have already graduated and they have some track record built. So we also wanted to bring in stories and perspectives from a student side, where you still get to understand what does it mean for somebody who is going through that experience today, and how is that translating today into the workplace. So that is why we are starting the student stories. So starting from next week, these student stories will be going live. So do follow us in the social channels, or do go back to the link for the blogs that I've just listed, and that will help you learn more about the student experiences as well. Another question is on the cohort composition. So being in India, we do get a lot of our participants from the country itself. So since it is a modular format, since it demands a week of class every 4 to 6 weeks, a lot of our participants, in fact, majority of our participants are from the country itself. But we do have people from the Middle East, from Southeast Asia, and from Europe and US who fly in and do the program. In fact, in the current cohort, we have about 3 participants from Middle East, 1 from Southeast Asia, 1 from Europe. In the coming cohort, we have somebody from the US who will be doing the program, flying all the way in from US. So uh, that is also a case, but a lot of the participants are from the country, given the nature of the program. So typically, modular programs tend to serve the larger needs of senior executives in the area that they operate from. And a majority of our participants are from the country itself. And there's a question on how would the classes be conducted for somebody from another city. So irrespective of where you're from, while the in-person immersion happens, you are expected to come to the campus where the immersion is going to happen. So as I mentioned, of the 12 weeks, roughly about 8 weeks happen at ISB Hyderabad campus, 2 weeks at ISB's Mohali campus, and 2 weeks at our international campuses, one at Wharton and one at London Business School. And while these immersions are happening, you're expected to come and spend that entire week in these campuses. So you'll fly in on a Friday evening and you fly out on the next Friday evening. So that entire 1 week is something that you will spend there in that particular campus. Now, the program is structured in a way that there is no learning component that is delivered online. It is not a blended program. It does not have an online learning component. In fact, all the learning component in the program is delivered in person. And that is why in-person attendance is mandatory. And the program, as I mentioned, the program is quite rigorous. There are 508 contact hours that you have in the program. So it is a lot of these learning that is happening one-to-one in person. So therefore, your physical presence in these campus and in-person attendance is a mandatory component for the program. There's another question that I have 18 years of experience, but did my graduation in 2019. Am I eligible? Yes, you are. So the eligibility criteria is that you should have an undergrad degree and 10 plus years of work experience. That 10 plus years of work experience need not be after your undergrad years alone. So therefore, your 18 years is valid and you can apply. Yes, there's another question on the startup success story. So the startup success story is something that you can refer back to in the iVentures website. So in fact, there's a lot of activity happening from iVentures at ISB. And whatever we used to do 2 years back, we're probably doing 4 times, 5 times the amount of activity these years. So if you refer back to the iVentures page, you will get to see a lot of these details to know more. Is there a preference for the industry or vertical background is another question. There is no preference as such. The admission committee does take an effort to put together a very diverse set of cohort, but that said, there is no preference. In fact, PGPMAX is one of those programs where you would find a lot more in terms of diversity. So typically when you talk about an EMBA, one might assume that it is a standard corporate profile, a VP or a director or a senior manager or somebody in a senior role wanting to do it. But in PGPMAX, you would find a lot more diversity. In fact, in the current cohort, there's a doctor, there's a lawyer, there's a fashion designer, there's a sailor turned investor. There are entrepreneurs, there are people from the forces, there's a DIG of police. So it is a very diverse community that is brought together. And that is also one of the key learning takeaways or the key experiences that you get from PGPMAX as a program as well. Would you be able to share this presentation is another question. So we'll be posting this presentation in YouTube. So you'll be able to get to see the presentation in YouTube. In fact, the previous year's presentations are already there. So if you search for PGPMAX Infosession in YouTube, you'll get to see some of these presentations there. So that's a good point to go back and see this presentation again. So is there a session at ISB to take us through the courses or where we can meet the alumni on campus is another question. So please do stay tuned. Around July, August, we are planning for in-person info sessions as well. So when these in-person info sessions are planned, one of those in-person info sessions will be at ISB Hyderabad campus as well. And that is a point where we will be bringing in alumni as well. So you will have an opportunity to come see the campus, meet with some of our alums. We just started off with a cycle this year. So around July, August is when we are planning one of these events. So do check our event page regularly. We will be getting one of these events. And once you've subscribed for one of these events, you'll also be getting email notifications from us of the next events. So please do keep a track of those events and hope that will help. What is the strength of the batch is another question. 75 is the class size. We don't expect any changes to the class size. Is sponsorship letter from organization required? If we are self-sponsoring is another question. Yes, it is required. So the sponsorship letter has 2 components to it. One is the financial component, which is not required if you are self-sponsoring. But there is another component which talks about the time off from work. As mentioned in the earlier slides, we'll have to take about 60 days out of work to pursue the program. So essentially the sponsorship letter is a sign off from the HR or your reporting manager stating that it is that you're permitted to take these 60 days out of work to pursue the program. So that component is required in the form of a sponsorship letter from the organization. Could you please help with the details in terms of change in salary is another question. So we don't have placements as part of the program, and we don't track uh, any of these specifics in terms of salary with our participants. And the reason is the cohort is very diverse. As I mentioned, anywhere from a manager or a senior manager to a VP director or CXO or an investor is part of the cohort. So looking at the salaries or taking the salary as a cue would not be it would not be a good metrics to consider or compare, because each person is at a different stage in their career. So unlike the standard MBA programs where there is not much of a variance, in an MBA program, you typically get people with 2 to 5 years of experience and they're early in their career. So the variance is very less. That variance is very high in terms of the PGPMAX cohort. So I mentioned earlier that the youngest member in the cohort right now is a manager with a big four, has about 11 years of experience. One of our senior most members is somebody with 35 years of experience and is a CEO and president of a large organization. So that is the variance that you see. So there is no way of comparing these matrices together. And that's why we don't take these matrices into consideration. Another question again on startup from Ashutosh. Ashutosh, what I would recommend is if you can book a one-to-one conversation, I'll be happy to share more details about any of the specific questions that you have. What is the average increase in compensation is another question. I hope the earlier answer addresses that. Another question is on the what is the degree that is awarded? So it is not a degree, it is a certificate. All the programs at ISB are certificates. And so we don't come under the AICT or UGC in the country, and therefore we are only authorized to give out certificates. But all of our certificate programs are the global equivalents of these degree formats. So the PGPMAX is a global EMBA equivalent, just like how the PGP at ISB is a global MBA equivalent. So these are all certificates that are issued from ISB, which is equivalent to a global EMBA program in the case of PGPMAX. Does the program arrange for stay during the international immersion, and what are the costs included is another question. Yes, so the boarding and lodging for the international immersions also is part of the program fee. So there is no additional cost that you will incur while you go for the international immersion, except for the travel. So the travel from India to the international location and the local travel there and the visa charges is something that you'll have to separately budget for. But otherwise, your boarding and lodging for that entire 1 week while you're there for the international immersion, be it at Wharton or at London Business School, is part of the program fee. Should all the documents be shared alongside the application combined under one PDF? So as you go into the application, there are multiple rows available to upload documents. And wherever you are required to combine these documents, please do that as one PDF and to add it there. So there's another question of the organization not agreeing to give a offshore. So it is an offshore company, and the company will not give a sponsorship letter is the question. So while even if there is a, so we do recommend a certain format for the sponsorship letter, but it is not a, it is only a sample and it may not be in that exact same format. So in cases where you have difficulty in the organization has a difficulty in stating the specific dates, the way around is to at least get a letter from your reporting manager, at least an email sign off from your reporting manager, saying that you that they don't have any problem in you pursuing this program, and there is a sign off for you to pursue the program given the 60-day commitment that is there. That will be a way around. But that said, please do book a one-to-one conversation with us. I'll be happy to look at the specific details and address that directly. Excellent. So that covers all of our questions. Hope all your queries are answered. If there are further questions, please do write it into the Q&A box. Excellent. So I don't see any other questions. So we've covered all the questions. Hope this was helpful. Again, as mentioned, listed on the screen are our direct numbers. Feel free to reach out to either to Smriti or to me, and we'll be happy to help you with the program details or with the application process. And at any point, if you want to discuss your profile, feel free to book a one-to-one conversation with us, and we'll be happy to look at your profile and give you more details. Can I get a recording of this session is another question. As I mentioned, the recordings will be posted in YouTube. So if you search for PGPMAX Infosession in YouTube, you will see these recordings. So this should come out in the next 2-3 days into YouTube as well. Excellent. So that answers all of our questions. Hope this session was helpful. Feel free to reach out to us whenever you need support in understanding more about PGPMAX and assessing the program. Thank you so much once again for joining us today, especially on a weekend. Wishing you an amazing weekend ahead and wishing you the best for the program as well. Look forward to seeing your applications as part of the program. Thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you the best.